Imagine stepping out of your car, suited up for a day in court, only to be handcuffed for the color of your skin. This isn't just a story, it's a wake-up call. Meet James Carter, a federal prosecutor whose arrest sparked a fight that shook a city and changed a nation. Stay tuned. You won't believe what happens next. Let us know where you're watching from and when. Leave a comment below. We're thrilled you're here.
The Charleston air hung soft and humid, fragrant with magnolia and a faint sea breeze. Cobblestone streets glowed under the afternoon sun's final golden rays, casting long shadows beneath ancient oaks. Downtown carried a slow, graceful rhythm, peaceful, yet never truly still. It was the sort of day that prompted tourists to snap photos and locals to linger over sweet tea on their porches. James Carter adjusted his charcoal gray suit's cuffs as he stepped from his Tesla Model S. He caught his reflection in the car's glossy finish, a tall, composed man in his late 40s, with close-cropped hair and deliberate movements. His briefcase clicked softly as he retrieved it from the back seat. The Charleston Federal Court loomed ahead, a neoclassical monument from another era, grand and impassive, its columns standing like stone guardians. He'd argued countless cases here, but today felt different, not due to legal intricacies or stakes, but a subtle, unsettling gut feeling. A silent warning. James dismissed it. He had no time for hunches. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A glance revealed a text from Emily, his wife of 18 years. Sophie says, "Good luck. She made you a yarn. Good luck charm. Check your briefcase." He smiled. Their daughter always found ways to brighten even the tensest days. As he approached the courthouse, he felt the small yarn loop in his briefcase's front pocket. Imperfect, twisted, but rich with sentiment. Across the street, a black and white patrol car idled silently. Inside, Officer Michael Reed sat with arms crossed over his vest, scanning the block. In his mid-30s, clean-shaven, with a jaw like a blade and a constant chip on his shoulder, he fixed his gaze on James. His partner, Officer Daniel Brooks, older and heavier, sat beside him, weary of chasing shadows. Reed's eyes narrowed as James neared the courthouse. The Tesla, the suit, the confident stride, none registered correctly. Instead, Reed's pulse quickened at what he saw. A bolo had aired earlier. Black male, 40s, dark clothing. Suspected in downtown burglaries of high-end electronics. No clear ID, just a vague description. Reed had a habit of acting on such vague visuals. "See that guy?" Reed said, tapping the window. Brooks followed his gaze, sighing. "Yeah. So?" "Matches the BOLO, height, age, build, fancy car. That's half the lawyers in town." Reed brushed him off. "I'm checking it out." Before Brooks could protest, Reed exited the car, adjusting his belt and crossing the street with a predator's gait. James didn't notice until Reed called out, "Sir, step away from the vehicle now." James turned, startled, his brows knitting at the officer's commanding tone. "I'm sorry," he said, standing still but calm. "Hands where I can see them." James's confusion deepened. "Officer, is there an issue?" "You match a suspect's description. Step away from the vehicle." Brooks emerged now, slower, reluctant, glancing at the courthouse. They stood in plain view of its steps. A few passers-by slowed, sensing trouble. James held his ground. "Suspect in what exactly?" I said, "Step away." "I'm a federal prosecutor," James said evenly, "heading into court." "Then you won't mind a few questions," Reed replied, already reaching for his cuffs. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." "I don't think you understand." "I understand perfectly." In moments, cold steel clamped around James's wrists. His briefcase hit the pavement with a thud. A yarn loop from Sophie slipped from the open zipper, landing softly on the sidewalk. Brooks shifted uneasily, his eyes flicking between the growing crowd and Reed's rigid stance. James stood tall despite the cuffs, meeting Reed's gaze directly. "You're making a mistake." "We'll see," Reed muttered, pushing him toward the squad car. Inside the courthouse, Judge Sarah Whitaker, reviewing dockets, glanced out the window at the commotion. Her brows furrowed. She thought she recognized the man being shoved into the patrol car. Outside, phones were out, videos recording. A young woman muttered, "What the hell? He's in a suit. What did he do? Blink wrong?" The murmur grew, low but rising. Another incident, another assumption, another headline brewing. In the patrol car, James sat still, breathing evenly, staring straight ahead as it pulled away. He wasn't panicked or shouting, just calculating. He'd spent his career dissecting cases like this one, now starring in one himself. He knew, without doubt, this moment would fuel a fight bigger than any legal brief he'd ever drafted. The squad car cruised slowly down King Street, weaving through traffic with no urgency. James sat upright, wrists bound tightly, the seat's rough edge digging into his shoulders. He flexed his fingers slightly, testing the cuffs, not to resist, but to remind himself he still controlled something. Officer Reed glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "You're quiet," he said, as if expecting a confession. James stayed silent. "I've seen plenty like you. Think a fancy car and suit make you untouchable." James met his eyes in the mirror. "No," he said calmly, "but the Constitution should mean something." Reed scoffed, gripping the wheel harder. Brooks shifted uncomfortably beside him, silent, his lined eyes betraying unease. He knew something was off, but silence was easier. Less paperwork. "Gonna tell me who you really are?" Reed asked, mock curious. "That federal prosecutor line didn't get you out of cuffs, did it?" James's voice remained steady. "It wasn't meant to, but you'll wish it had." Reed gave a forced chuckle, a crack in his bravado. They pulled into the courthouse's Sally Port, the same building James had been heading toward. He glimpsed the federal seal on the wall. This place had hosted murder trials, cartel busts, white-collar schemes, and now this. A black man cuffed for fitting a description that could match countless others. Brutal poetry. They parked. "Let's go," Reed said, yanking open the back door. James stepped out slowly, deliberately, adjusting his shoulders, not in defiance, but to hold on to his dignity. At the security checkpoint, 2 federal marshals chatted. Seeing Reed lead James toward the elevators, they paused. A young Latino marshal, Torres, raised an eyebrow. "Mike, you know who that is?" "Yeah," Reed said, brushing past. "Someone impersonating a federal employee." Torres opened his mouth, then closed it. The elevator doors shut. They rode to the 3rd floor in silence. Reed's breathing grew heavier, not from effort, but anticipation. He didn't realize how much he was unraveling his own world. At the top, a clerk, Margaret, a sharp woman in her late 50s with a steely jaw, blinked at James. "Mr. Carter?" she asked, puzzled. Before Reed could speak, James said, "Yes." "Please call Judge Whitaker in the U.S. Attorney's office." Reed stepped forward. "Ma'am, this man's detained." Margaret raised a hand. "Officer, I'd stop talking before you dig a hole you can't climb out of." James turned to Brooks. "You've been silent this whole time. Got anything to say?" Brooks swallowed, his mouth twitching open, then shutting. "We followed the BOLO," he mumbled. Margaret eyed them like kids caught smoking behind the gym, then picked up the phone. "This is Margaret, 3rd floor intake. I need Judge Whitaker now. It's about James Carter. Urgent." Reed began to protest, but James tuned him out, his mind already in legal mode, cataloging every moment, every word Reed spoke, every witness, every camera, every constitutional violation stacking up for a future lawsuit. Heavy footsteps echoed. Judge Whitaker's chamber door flew open, her dark robe commanding, flanked by 2 assistants. She stopped short, seeing James, Then the cuffs. "Remove them now," she told Reed. He hesitated. "Now, officer," she repeated, each word sharp as a bullet. Reluctantly, Reed uncuffed James. The metal's click was crisp, final. Brooks looked away. James rubbed his wrists. "Thank you, Judge. I thought you'd be in court by now," she said, voice taut with suppressed anger. "I was on my way." She turned to Reed. "Why was this man detained?" "He matched the bolo, black male, 40s, driving an expensive vehicle near recent burglaries." "That's all?" Whitaker's tone was icy. "It justified the stop." "Did it justify cuffing him?" "I followed procedure." "No," she snapped. "You followed bias." Brooks stepped forward. "Ma'am, You too," she cut him off. "You stood by and said nothing. Don't play noble now." The hallway fell silent. The building itself seemed to listen. Whitaker turned to Margaret. "Get the U.S. Marshal Service. I want all records of this incident, every communication, and the security footage from the entrance." Then to James. "Do you want to press charges?" James paused, the hallway holding its breath. He looked at Reed. "Not yet," he said. "But I want to speak on the record. Here, today." "You'll have it," she said. And with that, James Carter turned, not as a man shamed, but as one ready to reshape the story. The courtroom hummed like a disturbed hive. Words spread fast, too fast. Whispers in the halls became crackles on radios and phone screens. James Carter, federal prosecutor, arrested on the courthouse steps, cuffed by a local cop who thought he fit a profile. By the time Judge Whitaker reconvened, the gallery was filling. Law clerks murmured behind files. Junior attorneys leaned close, trying to be subtle. Senior DOJ officials slipped into the back row. They weren't here for a trial, but for a reckoning. James sat at the defense table, out of place from his usual spot. He adjusted his tie, smoothed his lapel, reclaiming composure. No briefcase beside him now, just silence, stares, and a pressure more surgical than legal. Across the aisle, Officer Reed stood, arms crossed, jaw tight, defiant, not remorseful. Officer Brooks slouched beside him, pale, shifting his weight as if the floor burned. Across from him, Emily stirred, still in scrubs from her double shift. Her eyes, tired but sharp, tracked him as always when he was like this. "You didn't deserve that," she said softly. James stared at his hands. "I know." "It's not just about you," she pressed. "It's what it means to everyone watching." "I'm not trying to be a symbol, Em. I just wanted to go to work." Emily leaned forward. "That's why you have to speak." Silence lingered. He nodded once. Enough. By morning, videos went viral. Cell phone clips, security footage, commentary. News anchors debated the arrest's legality. Conservatives said Reed did his job. Progressives demanded his badge. One clip changed everything. A law clerk, Kayla, live-streamed James's uncuffing before Judge Whitaker, nearing 3 million views. Her caption: "They arrested a federal prosecutor for being black in a suit." Then came the call. U.S. Attorney Robert Hayes, James's boss, phoned personally. "You okay?" he asked, skipping niceties. "I'm fine." "You don't sound it." James gave a small laugh. "How should I sound?" A pause. "Come in today," Hayes said. "Press conference. Speak if you want. No pressure. You owe no one." James didn't reply immediately. "I'm not doing this for them. For Sophie. She needs to see her dad stand up." That afternoon, the DOJ's local press room was packed. Reporters jostled. Photographers leaned over tables. James took the podium in yesterday's suit. No tie, just his nameplate and words. He faced the crowd, then the cameras. "I'm James Carter, federal prosecutor. For 20 years, I've fought for truth, due process, law's dignity. Yesterday, I was cuffed without question, without cause, without a conversation." The room stilled. I wasn't alone. I carried every black man who's had to justify his existence, every son told to watch his words, every father fearing silence his survival, his voice sharpened. This isn't about me. It's what this country refuses to see. Justice isn't equal. Appearance trumps evidence. Black skin in a suit is still a threat. Silence followed. Absolute. After the conference, James slipped out the back, avoiding the crush. No applause, no handshakes, just air. But outside, a face from 20 years ago waited. "James," the man said, stepping forward. James stopped, recognizing the hunched shoulders, nervous eyes. "Daniel." Officer Brooks, in plain clothes, held a folder. "I wasn't sure I should come." "Then why did you?" Brooks swallowed. "I owe you more than silence." Memories flooded back. Law school, clinics, defending a young Brooks against a false theft charge. James saved his record, helped him rebuild, got him into the academy. "You remembered me," James said quietly. Brooks nodded, shame in his eyes. "Then you knew me yesterday." A beat. "Yes," Brooks whispered. James's fists clenched. "And you let him cuff me." Brooks offered the folder. Emails, memos, a chilling complaint pattern against Reed for profiling black men. All dismissed, ignored. "I started saving these months ago," Brooks said. "Thought I was imagining it. Then yesterday, I knew I was part of it." James studied the papers, then Brooks. "This isn't forgiveness." "I'm not asking," Brooks said. "I'm giving you a match. Burn it down." James took the folder, smiling, not with joy, but resolve for war. 3 days later, James stood before a federal review board. The chamber wasn't a courtroom, but felt like one. Polished desks, suited officials, DOJ seal looming. Every seat was taken. Police brass on one side, DOJ and activists on the other, all watching James. He set a folder on the table, took a breath. This wasn't about one officer. It was a systemic disease. "Thank you for this hearing," he began. "I'm here to expose a pattern, not tell a story." He opened the folder. 7 complaints against Officer Reed over 4 years. Unlawful stops of black men. Each fit the description. No charges filed. All complaints dismissed. Buried. He paused, words settling like a fuse. This isn't coincidence or bad training. It's cultural permission, and it must stop. Murmurs spread. James eyed Chief Dalton, a politician's smile masking a bureaucrat's spine. "Chief Dalton, when did Reed last train on racial bias or constitutional procedure?" Dalton cleared his throat. "I'd need to check." "I did," James cut in, flipping a page. "Not once in 5 years. Your department cut implicit bias training in 2021. "Why?" Dalton stammered. "We prioritized tactical programs." "So, less education, more guns," James said flatly. "Noted." A DOJ woman scribbled furiously. A young officer shifted uneasily. James pressed on. "I submit Officer Brooks's sworn statement, confirming multiple unlawful stops and profiling." He stayed silent. Dalton muttered, "This is a witch hunt." James met his eyes. "Chief, if your department's Salem, I'm not lighting the fire. You are." The room tensed. Someone coughed. Then James surprised them. "I'm not pressing charges against Reed yet. No settlements, no hush money, no fading headlines." He leaned forward. "I want reform. Public, enforceable, permanent." Judge Whitaker, observing, raised an eyebrow. "A proposal?" James nodded. 3 demands: annual training on profiling, procedure, de-escalation, a civilian oversight board with subpoena power, immediate suspension for officers under investigation. The board murmured. An official whispered to the chair. James scanned the room. "I'm not here to shame. I'm here to rebuild. If the system won't change, I'll use every camera, court, and voice to make this city a case study in justice. He gathered his papers. This city can be a symbol of change, or a warning. Flashbulbs erupted as he left. Reporters shouted, "Will you sue? Running for office? Is Reed under federal investigation?" James walked through the noise. That evening, Sophie curled up beside him on the couch. "You said that to their faces?" she asked, wide-eyed. He nodded. "They were mad, huh?" James smiled. "Scared? That's better." From the kitchen, Emily called, "Change and enemies aren't the same." James looked at her. "Sometimes they are." Emily set a cup of tea before him, squeezing his shoulder. As silence settled, his phone buzzed. A blocked number. No voicemail, just a text. "You don't know what you've started. Walk away." James stared, then locked the screen. They were watching. He wasn't stopping. An anonymous file arrived in a plain manila envelope, delivered to James's office late Thursday in the rain. No return address, no courier log, just his name typed, James Carter. Personal. It felt off. Not junk, not legal. He locked his office door, sat under fluorescent hum, and opened it. 6 pages. Emails, memos, a spreadsheet, a badge. James scanned the first, an email between Charleston PD's Internal Affairs and the DA's office, dated 6 months ago. Subject, Reed flag pattern suppression. His jaw tightened. D.A. Harper reviewed footage. Advises non-pursuit, like prior cases. Keep off docket. No need to notify complainants. He read it twice, then flipped to a memo. Internal use only. Do not distribute. It detailed an unofficial policy between CPD leaders and the DA to manage optics on minority stops. Coded. Prioritize internal mediation. Avoid courts. Sweep it under. The spreadsheet listed 32 black men stopped by Reed for reasonable suspicion. 2 led to charges, later dropped. The last column chilled. Recommended action. Half read. Suppress and archive. The final page showed a Berkeley County DA badge with blue ink. Ask Harper about the special list. You're not the first, but maybe the last. James froze. He knew Harper. Lunches, conferences, handshakes. Smooth, charming, tough but fair. Now, an architect of deceit. That night in Judge Whitaker's chambers, no press, no staff. James laid out the documents. Her face hardened. "This is conspiracy," she said. James nodded. "Obstruction. Civil rights violations." "Definitely," she agreed. "What does this mean to you?" "I know," he said. "But I need the list's proof before the DOJ." Whitaker exhaled. "How will you get it?" James's voice was firm. "I'll ask the one who knows." Next day, James stood outside D.A. Thomas Harper's colonial estate. White columns, trimmed hedges, flag on the porch. Campaign brochures flashed in his mind. Harper, the law's last line, held the eraser. James rang the bell. Harper answered, smiling. "James, house calls?" "Not usually," James said. "This isn't usual." Harper's smile wavered. "You look serious." "I am." In the study, books lined walls, mostly unread. A bourbon decanter sat untouched. James handed Harper 2 pages. Harper's face stayed still, but his hand tightened. "Where'd you get these?" "They came to me," James said, anonymously, with intent. Harper folded the pages. "Carter, let this die quietly. You're smart, respected, with a future. Don't chase what you can't control." James didn't flinch. "You built a shadow policy, shielded a profiler, buried truth for your image. Now you want me to comply." Harper's voice lowered. "Push this, and you'll tear the city apart." James leaned in. "Maybe it needs tearing." Silence stretched. Then Harper said, "There's a list." James blinked. Harper nodded. "Not on paper, but real. A tally of recurring subjects, neighborhoods, cars, names, people like you." James's voice was ice. That's profiling. Harper met his gaze. That's politics. Not anymore, James said, standing and leaving. No slam needed. The walls would shake soon. The world crashed in before dawn. James barely slept when alerts hit. Phone, laptop, TV. By 6:42 a.m., headlines screamed. Charleston linked to secret black resident watch list. Prosecutor stands firm. National outlets, MSNBC, CNN, Fox, ran it. Fox's spin. Bias claim. But where's proof? Proof was with the DOJ, Inspector General, Congress. Whitaker acted fast, requesting emergency review, securing whistleblower protection. Harper's office went silent. Guilty silence. By noon, James's lawn was a circus. Reporters, news vans, drones. Emily shut the blinds. Sophie, cross-legged on the couch, stared at the TV. "Daddy, they're showing you." On screen, James at the press conference, Harper's door, Reed's mugshot. Reed faced federal charges, civil rights violations, abuse of power, obstruction. James expected it. Not the knock at the door. Emily opened it warily. A woman, mid-50s, gray curls under a sun hat, in a faded church dress, held a photo. "Is this the Carter residence?" "Yes," Emily said. "I won't take long." James appeared. The woman's eyes welled. "I saw you on TV. I had to thank you." She handed him a faded photo. A young black man, 19, by a beat-up truck, dated 2019. "My son, Marcus," she said, "stopped by Reed twice. Fit the description. No charges, just shame. He quit night classes, didn't want to be a target." James stared. "He died last year," she said. "Not violence, fear." He shrank, like he didn't belong. James felt a deep ache. "This isn't just your story, Mr. Carter," she whispered. "It's ours." He took her hand. "I won't let them bury him again." By evening, the crowd doubled. Not just reporters, but neighbors, veterans, students, parents, black, white, young, old. Signs read, "Not one more, no profiling policy. We stand with James." A young man gave Sophie a poster of James's face. "Justice looks like this." She smiled, first in days. In the kitchen, Emily approached James at the sink, gazing out. "You haven't eaten." "Not hungry." She didn't push, just hugged him, head on his shoulder. "Regret being the face of this?" He paused. "I regret it had to happen." Not speaking. Emily looked up. "It's not over." "I know. It'll get worse before better." James nodded. "But we're not alone." That night, a message, not a threat. "Senator Laura Bennett, Judiciary Committee Chair. Saw your testimony. You're right. National hearings, civil rights reform. Bigger than Charleston. Call me." James read it twice, staring into the dark. He fought for Marcus. Every fit the description. Every unreported stop. Every silenced rage. The nation watched. 3 weeks later, James sat in a D.C. Senate hearing room, once a background briefer, now center stage, under oath, a witness to systemic failure. The Senate seal loomed. Press packed the back. Senators, aides, scribbled. C-SPAN glowed. America watched. Senator Bennett, centered, leaned in. "Mr. Carter, you've submitted evidence of an unofficial list by Berkeley County DA and police, disproportionately targeting black citizens without cause. Correct?" James's voice was clear. "Yes, Senator." "Was this known beyond the DA?" James nodded, pulling a PDF from his briefcase. "This email, March 2022, from the National Association of District Attorneys, references predictive suspect monitoring across 7 states, including South Carolina." He handed it to a clerk. "It flags individuals using historical arrest data," James continued, "but it's tainted. Over 75% of flagged are black or Hispanic, despite being less than 40% of those counties' populations." The room stirred. Bennett's face darkened. Not just Charleston? James met her eyes. Systemic. Gasps rippled. A senator glanced nervously at staff. Bennett pressed. You believe this data justified unconstitutional stops? Yes, James said. They built policy on bias, fed algorithms with it, then used algorithms to justify bias. Senator Charles Walton, Texas conservative, spoke. Intentional or bureaucratic error. James didn't waver. Profile 30 black men, unstopped. That's error. Do it 30 more times with a spreadsheet to speed it up. That's policy. Walton shifted. Bennett asked, Other jurisdictions confirm such lists. James nodded. 4 prosecutors, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, Arizona, reported being told to suppress, archive. The room froze. Bennett's voice softened. What do you call this? A slow-motion constitutional collapse, James said. That night, the internet erupted. Hearing clips went viral. Bias-fed algorithms. Profile black citizens. DA offices implicated nationwide. James Carter unmasked system. News went wild. Some called him a hero. Others questioned his objectivity. 2 DA offices denied. 1 senator targeted James for data misuse. Hate mail flooded. Threats, resignation demands. He didn't flinch. In Charleston, the grand jury convened. Reed's indictment loomed. Harper resigned, citing family. Whitaker pushed DOJ reforms. A mural appeared overnight at the courthouse. A black man in a suit, hands raised, scales of justice cracked but intact. Words below. Stand even when they won't see you. James saw it with Sophie. They drew you, she said. No, he said softly. Us. She squeezed his hand. That afternoon, Emily found James in the garage, staring at the envelope. I never told you, he said. The whistleblower. I know who. Emily raised an eyebrow. Who? He showed the page, a name scribbled. D. Brooks. The partner? She asked. James nodded. He gave me the match. He came forward? He's been collecting evidence, James said. If I'm right, he has more. Emily exhaled. Now what? James's jaw set. Find him. Finish this. The courtroom was packed, largest in the district, for major trials. Today, it held accountability. James stood before the bar, not prosecutor, not witness, but petitioner in a hearing to judge if Berkeley County's justice system systematically violated rights. Behind him sat DOJ members, civil rights lawyers, activists, and those listed, profiled, cuffed, forgotten. In the back, Daniel Brooks sat, plain-clothed, no badge, holding a folder, looking worn. Their eyes met, memory and consequence. Visiting Judge Evelyn Monroe, black, sharp-eyed, intolerant of evasion, presided. We're here under Emergency Motion 1173B, backed by Mr. James Carter's evidence, she said. Proceed. James stepped forward, no notes needed. Your Honor, I stand for every person whose dignity was traded for convenience. I was arrested without cause, profiled, paraded as a criminal where I serve. He gestured to the gallery. My story's the headline. Beneath lies rot, beyond one officer, department, or city. A culture saying some lives are more suspicious. Monroe nodded. Your evidence is compelling, but policy failure doesn't prove intent. Got proof of organized wrongdoing? James glanced at Brooks, who rose, heads turning. I do, Brooks said firmly. I'll testify. Sworn in, Brooks spoke. 4 years? Reed's partner. I saw dozens of baseless stops. I stayed silent, rationalized it. Thought it wasn't my place. He glanced at James. Then we stopped a man I admired, who defended me when I was broken. Whispers spread. Brooks handed a folder to the clerk. Internal directives, emails, texts, logs, Officers watched the usuals: names, photos, addresses, a database, the shadow docket. James's chest tightened. Brooks continued. Harper knew, authorized data collection, added names. So did others, high up. Monroe raised an eyebrow. Proof? Brooks nodded. Encrypted flash drive in the folder, everything. The room erupted. Reporters scribbling, phones buzzing. Monroe's gavel restored order. Your testimony's recorded, Mr. Brooks. Step down. Brooks left the courtroom, no longer silent. James stepped up. I ask for injunctions against agencies using discriminatory algorithms, a federal investigation. And, Your Honor, name this a violation of sacred rights. Monroe's words were sharp. This court orders a preliminary injunction. Named parties face federal review. Berkeley DA's office is under oversight. Gasps, applause, cut short by Monroe's gavel. Not theater, a reckoning. James stood resolute. Reporters surged, but he exited into Charleston's dusk. Sophie ran to him, hugging tight. You did it, she whispered. We're just starting, he said, chin on her head. 3 months later, Charleston felt transformed. The courthouse quieted, but its walls echoed. Murals on its steps, preserved under plexiglass, bore the slogan, Stand even when they won't see you, on sidewalks, T-shirts, classrooms. Reed was convicted, Harper disbarred, indicted. The shadow docket, gone, exposed. The real change was people. At the Charleston Civic Center, James stood at a podium, flanked by leaders, reformers, elders. No tie, just his voice. A banner read, The Carter Bill, a new code of justice. It passed unanimously. Civilian oversight. No unchecked predictive policing. Mandatory body cameras. Data transparency. Whistleblower protections. Sophie held her civics essay about her dad. Emily watched, proud, exhausted. James spoke. This moment chose me. I resented it, wanted my peace, family, work, not microphones. He paused. But when your humanity's questioned before your name, silence is complicity. I won't be complicit. Applause roared. We changed something, not everything. Change is a direction. He looked out. I see veterans, teachers, kids, the ignored now leading. Justice comes from community saying never again and meaning it. The crowd rose, cheers, tears. Later, an old man, 80s, cane tapping, approached. You remind me of me, Selma, 60 years ago. They said we'd never win, system too big, us too small. He met James's eyes. You proved justice moves when we push. James, eyes damp, whispered, Thank you. No, the man said, thank you for the fight. That night on the porch, Sophie read her essay's final line. Will the change last? James looked at the street lamp's golden glow. If we make it. She leaned in. We will. Stars shone, steady. The night was still. Not silent, but calm. Post-storm. Pre-dawn. This story isn't just drama.